Fetch me my beverage, Lelia. Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca.
I'm Lelia.
And we are the Boozy Booksellers. And today we have a very special guest. We are welcoming author L.M. Elliott, the author of Hamilton and Peggy, which is a great young adult book about, you guessed it, Alexander Hamilton and Peggy Schuyler. And we're so excited. Laura has made us George Washington's Punch. Laura, will you tell us what you have made us today?
Yes, and I've forgotten my book, but that's all right. Doesn't matter. I can describe it anyway. This was actually a recipe from Pat Conroy, who was one of my absolute favorite authors, and I had this amazing experience where I got to meet him. So when I found that he had George Washington's Punch, who I'm also in love with after doing the research on Hamilton and Peggy, that he had actually put together George Washington's Punch, I just had to make it. So,
and she sent an email. She was like, "It's supposed to steep for a week, but I think 24 hours would be okay." I was like, "Oh my god, what are we making?" Well, she did all the work. We're just drinking it.
No, it's very easy. It has a lot of ingredients. So,
and I will find it. We post it in the description box of this video.
You can make your own at home. Please be careful.
Don't drink till you're 21, kids.
Yeah, please. And just remember that George was making this when he expected everybody to be staying at Mount Vernon for at least a month.
Yeah, so no drinking and driving your carriage home.
No.
That's right.
So why don't you tell us more about Hamilton and Peggy? Hamilton
and Peggy.
Hamilton and Peggy.
The fumes alone. Well, I ended up doing this. I'm going to do the really brief version.
Yeah.
My editor asked me to do something about Hamilton, and Hamilton is so sacrosanct, and he's so legendary now, thanks to Lin-Manuel Miranda's miraculous work, Hamilton. And I wasn't about to touch him, and I thought, well, who else do we have? And I was looking for like a Rosencrantz and Guildenstern perspective on Hamilton, and there's Anne Peggy. And Anne Peggy only has 36 solo words in the musical. So I had to do some really quick hit research. The first thing I found out was that she dashed into the fray of an attempted kidnapping of her father to save her little sister's life.
What?
Out of the cradle. Yeah. Yes. Everybody was pregnant. Eliza and Angelica were both pregnant. Angelica already had children by that point. They all go running upstairs when these 20 men storm the house, bent on getting Philip Schuyler, because he was George Washington's right-hand man for spying. He ran this amazing spy ring out of the house. Anyway, they all go running upstairs. She goes running with them, and she thinks, where's the baby? Well, the baby, the last little Schuyler, was still in a cradle down where all this fighting's going on. She goes running down, and she grabs the baby and brings her back up. So she saves the baby, and then as soon as I thought, all right, this is a, kick-butt protagonist, I want to write about her, and then I started reading everybody else's letters about her. She's called a wicked wit. She was endowed with a superior mind and a rare accuracy of judgment in men and things. She was sprightly. She was fluent in French. She taught herself German by reading her father's engineering manuals. And then the best thing of all was finding one of Hamilton's best friends, called her a Swifts. That's Jonathan Swift, because I've been saying that at book events, and they all go, what?
I don't understand. What?
So for all you English majors out there, Jonathan Swift's Vanessa, and he didn't mean it as a compliment. Vanessa was a protagonist in a kind of obscure poem, and she was very well-read, very articulate, and she was a little too insistent on talking politics and philosophy with men to be entirely likable. And
the hussy.
Exactly. So I researched it by looking at letters, which is why we're going to include these letters today, because there's nothing written in Peggy's hand of her own. But people write about her constantly because she's this wicked wit and a favorite at dinner parties and all this kind of stuff. But Hamilton writes her these amazing letters. And I was showing them part of this, but these are like the letters that I would be going, what? Oh my, wait, who's that? That's how.
What is happening?
And that's how I researched, was starting with Hamilton and his letters. They obviously had this immediate affinity. The book starts, I'm almost done. The book starts with this amazing letter that we're going to read you part of, which basically is, he had just met Eliza. He is head over heels with her. He writes this letter to Peggy, basically to say, please come to Morristown. I hear you are a nymph of equal sway to your sister, and I've learned that you have a great mind and all this, but you must come to Morristown. And so you distract all the other aides de camp so that I can monopolize Eliza to myself. I implore your aid. So he takes her as his
Be my wing woman.
beginning, and I think they just had this kind of delightful friendship from the very beginning.
Oh my gosh, that's so great. I feel like Peggy just now makes me feel like super underachieving. It's like, I taught myself German from engineering
The book could have been
manuals.
called, like, Peggy saves a baby and teaches herself German, and it's just like, yeah, whatever, she was friends with Hamilton. It's
Whatever. I imagine just Peggy, like, in her, like, 18th century gown, just, like, kicking a door down and getting the baby, like, in one hand.
alternate cover idea.
Peggy
What a
Schuyler, 18th century action hero.
Yeah.
Before we read any of the letters, I'm going to announce the rules to the Hamilton letter drinking game. You can play at home, as long as you're over 21 and safe and not driving.
Yes.
And so you take a drink every time Hamilton uses overly flowery language or uses 16 words when he could have used 6.
Okay, so just a
all
waterfall.
the time, just constant drinking. Alliteration.
Okay.
5-syllable word. Every time he says something vaguely sexist or blatantly sexist, but I think vaguely is a little more fun. You're like, was it? I think it was. Drinks.
Yeah.
Or Hamilton is needlessly pretentious or douchey. And any sexual innuendos. So yeah, start us off with this first letter that we're going to...
All right, so this is a letter written to Peggy in February 1780. By the way, as soon as she gets this letter, Peggy rides off into the absolute worst recorded snowstorm in American history to make sure that her sister is okay, I think.
Oh, she's like, I got this letter from this weirdo. I gotta go.
It's stunning. It's 5 days in 4 to 6 foot snow drifts. It's still snowing. It started snowing November 1st and didn't end until April 1st. And the New York harbor freezes 18 feet thick. So that they were carrying cannon across it. Yeah.
That's too cold.
Yeah.
That's
no one
too
wants that.
cold.
Well, this is why they made this stuff. In obedience to Miss Schuyler's commands, I do myself the pleasure to enclose you a letter, which she has been so obliging as to commit to my care.
Really unnecessarily long.
And I beg your permission to assure you that many motives conspire to render this commission peculiarly agreeable.
Oh my God, Hamilton, just cut to the chase,
Peculiarly,
my man.
is that 4? You know what? Either way.
I have already confessed the influence your sister has gained over me. Yet, notwithstanding this, I have some things of a very serious and heinous nature to lay to her charge. She is most...
Already rude.
Yep.
She is most unmercifully handsome and so perverse that she has none of those pretty affectations which are the prerogatives of beauty. Her good sense is destitute of that happy mixture of vanity and ostentation which would make it conspicuous to the whole tribe of fools and foplings, as well as to men of understanding,
Ooh, yes.
so that as the matter now stands, it is very little known beyond the circle of these. She has good nature, affability, and vivacity, unembellished with that charming frivolousness which is justly deemed one of the principal accomplishments of a belle. In short, she is so strange a creature that she possesses all the beauties, virtues, and graces of her sex, without any of those amiable defects, which from their general prevalence are esteemed by connoisseurs necessary shades in the character of a fine woman.
Oh my Lord.
Wow.
Now, it was sweet eventually.
It was
Once you like dig into like the 16 layers of adverbs.
Yes. The thing about walking through Hamilton's letters that are so wonderful is that
I feel like you can only walk. Like you
can't
can't run
run
through them.
No, you only amble through them going, oh my God, let's read that.
Vivacity? Really?
And they're just poetic. They are full of braggadocio later on, and vulnerable though. That's the thing, is when you really read them. He was so besotted with Eliza as the letters go, as you will hear.
Okay, so I'm going to read this next letter, which is to Peggy
from Alexander
Hamilton to Peggy in January of 1781. And you said that this was he's giving her essentially dating advice,
yes.
right? I didn't practice this, guys. I'm going to try to channel my Hamilton. Because your sister has the talent of growing more amiable every day, or because I am a fanatic in love, or both.
Ooh, both!
Or if you prefer another interpretation, because I have address enough to be a good dissembler. She fancies herself the happiest woman in the world, and would need persuade all her friends to embark with her in the matrimonial voyage.
Okay,
that was one sentence.
That was too many words.
Also, matrimonial voyage?
It's life.
It's a journey.
It's a journey.
But I pray you do not let her advice have so much influence as to make you matrimony mad. Alliteration.
Also kind of douchey.
'Tis a very good thing when their stars unite two people who are fit for each other, who have souls capable of relishing the sweets of friendship and sensibilities.
That one's kind of nice. I like that.
Sweet.
The conclusion of the sentence I trust to your fancy.
Yes, you should also note that line was edited.
Oh.
If you
Interesting.
go to the archives.
So this is the edited line? Like, we don't know what the original line was? Or this is the original?
If you go to the archives, you'll see it's just a little bit more.
Because we're all going to the archives, guys.
Interesting, yeah. I'll see you on the internet later. That was weird. I'm going to cut that line. That was weird.
But it's a dog of life when two dissonant tempers meet, and 'tis 10 to 1, but this is the case.
Alliteration.
Oh, nice, yes.
Yeah, it is.
'Tis 10. When, therefore, I join her in advising you to marry, I add, be cautious in the choice. Get a man of sense, not ugly enough to be pointed at.
Yeah, that was douchey, but I love it.
With some good nature, a few grains of feeling, a little taste, a little imagination, and above all, a good deal of decision to keep you in order.
Okay.
What does that mean?
Okay.
This is Peggy. Well, Peggy had her own mind about
Good
things.
for her, Peggy.
Exactly.
Peggy, you do what you want, girl.
She's our kind of girl.
For that, this is still the same sentence. I just paused at the semicolon.
Oh, man. So, yeah, we're just going to have to...
Yep. For that, I foresee will be no easy task. If you can find one with all these qualities willing to marry you, marry him as soon as you please.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I'll drink to that.
All right, buddy.
I finished my drink.
Oh, you need more.
All right. My drink is refilled, and I'm going to read the third letter, which is while Alex and Eliza are married. Or no, they're engaged.
They're engaged.
And this is a letter to Eliza.
Yes.
But he references Peggy. And this is one of the racier letters. So, buckle up, kiddos. Alrighty. To drop figure, my lovely girl, you become dearer to me every moment. I am more and more unhappy and impatient under the hard necessity that keeps me from you, and yet the prospect lengthens as I advance.
Oh my God, I had not caught that.
Yep. Oh, it's all dirty, Laura.
The Rebecca Spees story. I had hoped the middle would have given us to each other, but I now fear it will be the latter end. Though the period of our reunion in reality approaches, it seems further off. Among other causes of uneasiness, I dread lest you should imagine I yield too easily to the bars that keep us asunder. Semicolon. But if you have such an idea, you ought to banish it and reproach yourself with injustice. That sentence is too long, and I don't know what it means. A spirit entering into bliss, heaven opening upon all its faculties, cannot long more ardently for the enjoyment than I do, my darling Betsy, to taste the heaven that awaits me in your bosom.
Yep.
Woo!
Oh, there we go.
That I caught.
Cannot long more ardently for the enjoyment than I do, my darling Betsy, to taste the heaven that awaits me in your bosom. Is my language too strong? It is a feeble picture of my feelings. No words can tell you how much I love and how much I long, but boy howdy am I gonna try. You will only know it when wrapped in each other's arms we give and take those delicious caresses which love inspires and marriage sanctifies. Oh my word.
Oh, Hamilton.
I'm going to drink out of this mason jar and fan myself and clutch my pearls.
Now, the next thing you should know that we've taken out is that the next paragraph, he would do this. He would do these blissful things that you would be going, oh my. And then he would immediately either go into politics or
Oh my
God.
talk about...
That Thomas Jefferson, what a tool,
What
right?
a tool!
Or say things or like, tell my Peggy that blah, blah, give her my best. Tell your mom, give your mom
I say hi.
There's a later story where there's a little bit of flirtation, as we know, between Angelica and Alexander. And there's this one point where her garter, Angelica's garter falls in a ball.
Oh.
And he lifts it back. He retrieves it for her.
Buddy! Is
And-
this after he and Eliza were married?
Yes. And somebody, I think she says, he's the knight of my garter. And Peggy...
Okay, that's clever. That's
Peggy-
really clever.
You know, Peggy evidently then says, well, he'd like to be the knight of the bedchamber. So, I mean,
Oh my god, that's freaking savage,
Yeah.
Peggy!
Get wrecked.
Get wrecked!
wicked wit, you know.
And so there's one more letter that is so bonkers, but we don't want to read the whole thing. But so we figured that we would pick out our favorite, like, banana pants sentence from this last letter, which is to Eliza. And, there's just a lot going on in this letter.
Yeah, and it's mostly, is it almost all references to Fleury.
Who, like, Peggy and he had a, like, flirtation of some kind.
Well, they have a romance. And what I found out, guys, just so you know, the Marquis de Fleury, he's an engineer, and he writes this wonderful letter to George Washington in broken English, saying that he's created these self-propelled exploding boats with which he's going to take down the British fleet.
I have a great plan.
George. I got a great idea, except like with a terrible French accent. I can't do French accents.
It's so funny.
George, I have an idea for you.
I have an idea for you about the exploding boats.
We will surely win this war.
Yeah.
With my exploding boats.
You put the firework.
Well done.
She can do a much better French accent.
My mother was a French major.
But you should know that George answered, why don't you try to get a contingent of desperate men?
But all of that to say, in this last letter, which is from Alexander Hamilton to Eliza, it was just banana pants, and I don't understand what's happening. But I really like this sentence, where it's basically saying to Eliza, listen, I know I give women a lot of crap, but I also hate dudes. So, like, equal opportunity hatred, which is super douchey. Do not, however, I entreat you, suppose that I entertain an ill opinion of all your sex. I have a much worse of my own. I have seen more of yours that merited esteem and love, but the truth is, my dear girl, that there are very few of either that are not very worthless.
Okay.
Okay, Federalist Papers, GTFO, God. Ugh.
I will read an excerpt from a paragraph in which it seems like, and maybe there's more to this, but honestly, it just kind of seems face value there that he's talking about this hot 15-year-old Dutch girl.
Which is weird.
This, you will say, is a very favorable character, but I have summed up all her excellencies, beauty, innocence, youth, simplicity. If all her sex were like her, I would become a disciple of Muhammad.
That's really racist, and I don't like it.
I am persuaded she has no soul. And as I am squeamish enough to require a soul in a woman, I run no great risk of becoming one of her captives. He's like, yeah, she's hot, but, you know, I need a lady who can have a conversation, too, so don't worry, I'm not gonna cheat on you.
Like you, my fiancé.
Okay.
No, he only cheats on her later.
Oh.
Burn!
All right, so this is a paragraph I focus on then. When your sister comes home, which is Peggy, I shall try to get her in my interest and make her tell me of all your flirtations. Have you heard anything more of what I hinted to you about Fleury? Now, I showed them here.
I know who's Fleury!
All right, when she returns, give my love to her and tell her I expect it. She would have outstripped you in the hymeneal line.
That's gross, and I don't like it.
Well, I'll just add that that's just a little classic reference. Of course, we think
to
of it
Hymen.
Yes.
The god of marriage.
Exactly. Very good.
He knew what he was doing.
He did. So,
it's gross and I don't like it. But yes, thank you so much for L.M. Elliott for joining us.
This is such fun.
Hamilton and Peggy is her newest book. It's so much fun. It's so delightful. It's so steeped in the history, and you can tell by all of the letters that we have read that it rings really
It's more appropriate, though.
It is much more appropriate than anything I have said
For sure.
tonight. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
you.
We will list all sorts of links to the archives and to the book down in the description box. And
you go to my website because I have all sorts of things.
Please
I will also link Laura's website as well.
Follow her on Twitter. And if you're lucky enough to get to see Hamilton at the Kennedy Center when it starts in June, please enjoy and please show this video to everyone there. So
Exactly.
That they can like our page.
Tell us all about it.
Yes.
Well, actually, I've
Subscribe.
seen it already, so it's fine.
Oh, I can touch you.
Speak salt like the original Broadway
I did
cast.
see the original Broadway cast.
Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. Thank you guys so much.
Yay, thank you for coming, and thank you for making us this delicious George Washington's punch.
I'm taking them home now.
Ooh, scones! Thank you all. Bye!
Bye! I
love bibliographies.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's like a 10-page bibliography.
Yes.